Happy Wednesday wisdom, everybody. So great to see you all again. Actually, I can't see you, but you can see me. How about that? So happy Wednesday wisdom. I have an amazing treat for you all today. This individual is absolutely incredible. He is going to knock your socks off. So I'm going to jump right into it. I have none other than my own managing broker for North and East, and actually transitioning him now over into the West Side, and Mr. Ravishing Rockstar Rick Carr, managing broker extraordinaire. Rick, introduce yourself to those that don't know you, and then I'll come back and kind of talk about what we're going to talk about today.
For sure, thank you. No, I mean that hype up. I mean, how do I follow that, right? If I could just get Tony to follow me around, introduce me when I walk into a movie theater, anything, just hype me up. I mean, I feel 3 feet taller anytime he does that. So thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Rick Carr, MB, North and other areas, will say. Been at it. I'm in my 28th year. Sold my first 12. Moved into brokerage management, training, education for the last 16. Never a dull moment. About 2,500 agents in the north, and just keeps me on my toes. It's used to be an educator, had my own providership, worked with champions, past president of an association. So I'm soft spot, warm spot in my heart for association leadership roles. But that's it. That's it. I think me, combat veteran as well, and Tony is my brother there. So. Thank you for having me
That's
today,
it.
sir.
As if that wasn't enough, y'all. And I love how humble Rick is. He just drops all that stuff on there like it's nothing. But yes, Rick has been crushing it for a long time. Production wise, tip top of every brokers that he's been with. And I was able to wrangle him up today to teach us kind of what to do, right, and how to get to that level. And the ultimate question that I asked Rick today, which is, if you had to get a listing today, right, starting from scratch, brand new area, you know nothing, know anybody, right? If you had to get a listing today before your head hits the pillow, what would you do, right? And Rick and I had a great conversation about this sometime back, and what he told me just blew my mind. So I've asked him to kind of put a training together today and to run through some of the concepts, some of the ideas, because there's so much that kind of sprung from that conversation, and I think that you all are going to get incredible value out of this. So, Rick Carr, if you were waking up today, what time is it in Central? We got 11:02, right? It's 11:02 a.m. You have to get a listing today before you go to bed. And by the way, y'all, you can duplicate this process every single day. How would it change your business to get 365 listings over the next year, right? If you had to get a listing today, Rick, what would you do? Talk us through it.
That's a great question, and if I asked you all to guess where I was going, I would think that a big chunk of our peers would lean to the sphere of influence, SOI. And actually, a brokerage that I ran out in San Angelo stepped into a spot that had been held by the owner broker for almost 30 years. And he often asked this question, and the answer that he was looking for is, where would you go today if I told you your job depended on it? You had to have a listing by the end of the day. He felt that answer would be sphere of influence, and I like that. But the one thing the sphere doesn't have that this group has is, or that they haven't done previously, is expressed an interest. So the short answer to that question, sir, is I would go to expireds, for sale by owners, or canceled. Why?
Why?
Because they
Hey,
all,
that's my job. Why, Rick?
yeah, because they have all already expressed an interest in selling.
Wow.
Maybe that's changed. Maybe they're going to pull their home off the market for a while. They've grown tired and weary, whatever the situation is. But fact of the matter, they all have recently expressed an interest and or currently expressing an interest to sell.
So I love that concept. And by the way, I had Jay Kinder, the legend, right? Jay Kinder on the very first one of these Wednesday Wisdoms that we ever did. Jay did, I think, 536 transactions in 1 year by himself. Now talking teams,
Amazing.
536 transactions by himself. I got him on
Mhm.
this same podcast and I said, Jay, what would you do? What's your advice to an agent? You know what he said? He said, for
What?
sale by owners and expires. Pick up the phone,
Wow.
and that's his advice to every single person that he talks to that asks him that question.
Hmm.
Pick up the phone, call for sale by owners, call your expired listings. Why? Same reasons that Rick said, but also it's important to remember the fact that if you do this, you will win. Period. If you do it time and time again, you'll get better on the phones. You'll get better strategies, and you will succeed in this scenario because, like Rick said, these are folks that have already raised their hand. They've already said, "Hey, I want to sell my home." You have an identifiable market. So anytime you're marketing, if you can start with an audience that is hungry, right? That is going to lead to your ultimate success, right? What else, Rick?
Agree. 100%. Yeah, no, as we dig in a little bit deeper, I've got some different processes and a script, if you want to call it that. Mine are more kind of one-liners, zingers, we can call them. But my hope is that, by the end of this session, you'll have been able to kind of grab hold of one thing, and then you can go out there, make it your own, and have some success with it. Um,
But
uh,
Rick, for sale by owners and expires, everybody's doing that. Everybody's calling them. What makes me different? Wah wah wah. Right? I'm sure we hear that, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And there's fear and there's apprehension. There's fear of rejection. I know you've heard me say it before, but I was the kind of kid in school in third grade that if I was sweet on a girl, I would write a note and say, "Hey, will you go with me? Yes or no. Circle one." And I would pass that over. Why? I didn't want that rejection, if that was coming. I didn't want that, especially face to face. I felt I couldn't deal with it. But as an 8, 9 year old, but
But you got to grow out of that, right? You
you
have
have
to
to grow
deal
out of it.
with
You have to
rejection.
grow
You
out
have
of
to
it.
face it, and that is the one of the chief things that separates successful agents from unsuccessful agents. Had a chat yesterday with Brent Gove, right? Another legend, another superstar. One of the things that he said that again was mind blowing. Champions and people that are successful are not afraid to look stupid. They're not afraid to get
Mm,
rejected, and that really
I
is the
love that.
only principal difference between the two. They're not afraid to look like a fool, so that down the road they know that they're going to look like a superstar, right? As opposed to
Right.
trying to feed your ego by not feeling that rejection. Champs have no ego; they crush it. Just go out and do it.
Right. No, I mean, I agree. I love that 100%. And as we're talking here, it's interesting. We're talking about listings. Hey, buyers are great too. We want buyers, but he or she who has the listings controls the inventory. I had a very seasoned agent tell me that as a new agent that we've got 20 buyer agents all going after the same property. She said, as the listing agent, I know I'm going to get at least one side and possibly two. So
Yeah.
that's where we want to drill down in this business. You want to control the inventory, you want to have the listings, and there are sellers out there. There are sellers that have a reason to sell right now.
Yeah.
Relocating, moving, upsizing, downsizing, illness, you name it. We could go on and spend the hour just in reasons they may want to. So there are people out there actively looking to sell. But here's the thing, in doing that, and when you go get these listings and you go work these expireds, cancels, and for sale by owners, ultimately, your job is to get it done, is to get it sold. You don't make any money if you just carry it for a few months or 6 months. So in doing that, you have to get real. I could teach a whole class on just getting real with your sellers. And what I mean by that is being in the know where you are in your market, but also aggressively pricing yourself to the competition when you get that listing. Um, Second, third year in the business, the switch flipped, and I started to really focus. My listing inventory really started to focus on the active competition. And what led me there was I realized that when I was out showing properties, buyers build value based on what they're seeing. They don't build value based on historical solds or sales. Appraisers do that. We do that as licensees, but they build value based on what they're seeing. As I've said, they're not. I've never seen one go across the street to the home that sold 8 months ago, knock on the door, and say, "Hey, can we come see this home and how it compares to the one we're buying?" They're not going to do that. They're going
Right.
to look at the 4 houses that are in that area or that you're showing them, and one's going to be sold off of the other three. So that's what I mean by getting real. Once you get the listing, get real. My house was worth $650,000 last year. This year, it's 550.
Wish I'd
Now
have
I
sold
can
it
still
last
go
year,
for.
right? Yeah,
I know, right? And I can cry about that all day, but what's that going to help? But you know what? It's still worth a considerable amount more than I paid for it in 2015. So it's still good. The old saying, it reminds me of the old saying in business: pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
that's right. That's right. That's right. So I want to talk more about this concept, right, of the audience that we're going after, right, and these folks that have raised their hand and said, "Hey, I want to sell." It reminds me of this business school, right, that was teaching, and the professor got up there and he said, if you had a hot dog stand, right, and this was the quiz, right, for his business school, and he said, if you had a hot dog stand, what is the one thing that you need to make that hot dog stand successful, right? And he went around the class and gave them all a grade, and they had to write, and some of them had these big long answers and all the different things that they need. Ultimately, everyone in the class got an F, because the correct answer, according to the professor, was a hungry crowd. No one,
Ah,
none of those folks indicated, hey, a hungry audience, right? A hungry crowd. And that's
wow,
where these
that's
for sale by
good.
owners, these cancels and these expires come in, is these are
Right.
hungry crowds, right? These are people that are at a ball game. They're hungry first and foremost, because you'll never sell a hot dog to someone that's not hungry. Which is where I
That's a
think
good point.
this difference in mindset comes between sphere, which we know sphere of influence is big, and we've even had some of these Wednesday wisdoms in that realm of how to deal with your sphere. A couple weeks ago we had Stephanie Stone. She was incredible, talked about your CRM and making sure you're doing drips. Elizabeth Riley is a master at that as well. We had her on. But to Rick's point, it's funny because you don't know for sure that someone in your sphere of influence is looking to buy or sell, or even know someone looking to buy or sell. And a part of the challenge with that, and yes, you want to ask them and you want to say, hey, do you know, or who do you know? Give me three people. There's all these different strategies and tricks and tools to try to get to someone that's looking to buy or sell in the next 6 months. But the reality is that if you had to, again, get that listing, if you needed, I think Zig Ziglar mentions a quote, he had to go make a sale in order to get his daughter out of the hospital, right? I mean, when his daughter
Mm,
was born, she was born, and they had to clear the bill before they left the hospital. So he had to get out and make a sale in order to bring his baby home. So if you had to bring your baby home from the hospital, right, this means you got to go with
mhm,
a listing. What would you do? And I think that this idea of isolating a hungry audience and for sale by owners expires and cancels. So you talked about why that's
mm,
your favorite group, but I want to talk about
thank you.
what insights you have, Rick, on differentiating
Mhm.
yourself, because we mentioned everyone's calling these, right? It's real estate school 101, your first day out of
Right.
real estate school, the first meeting with your sales manager, the first meeting you have with your team lead. It's all right, pick up the phone and call for us about owners and expires. Here's a script, get going, kid. Good luck, right?
Yeah.
But is that the most effective strategy? What do you think?
You know, some people can take something. You can throw a tool down, and a tool you'll have a tool down on a table. You have 10 people, like animals, kind of sniff it, smell it, touch it, feel it. Somebody's going to pick that up and take it, run, and go have success with it. But I like this kind of low hanging fruit, and for me. The fact that they've expressed that interest makes them, as you say, that hungry audience, and that's huge. Um, so this would be my favorite group to ramp up my business, and to go get those listings. You're going to get an education with everything you do. I say in this industry we learn by doing. So brand new agent, no listings, never had a listing. I love to work with agents like that. When they go out and they work this group, I think sometimes our new licensees are going to be afraid that if they're going out there, and as you say, as we well know, they're competing for this for sale by owner or expired or canceled. If you don't have confidence in this process, it's not going to work well for you. Okay. You've got to have confidence. And the confidence comes from knowing your market, knowing that listing. I'm going to go in, I'm going to work it. I'm going to prepare market analysis. I'm going to prepare what I call a micro market analysis and a macro. I'm going to take a look. I'm going to know that property before I ever step foot out to it. And that's key as you're doing this. But here's the thing for that new licensee that's worried, what if they ask how many listings I've had? What if they ask how many deals I've closed? And new licensees a lot of times are terrified that question is going to be asked. What I say is welcome those questions. How many listings do you have? Zero, says the new licensee with a smile on your face, confident, right? Um, how many transactions have you closed? Absolutely none. you know, don't hem haw. Don't say, well, I handled investments. I had some rental properties and I did these things. No, be upfront. If that's the shot in the arm that and you're nervous of that shot of needles, go ahead and take that shot. Take it right away because I've got some great follow-ups for that new licensee. How many listings do you have? Zero. Hmm. Okay, well, what makes you think you can sell mine? I wouldn't be out here today if I didn't think I could sell your home. And kind of let that sink in a little bit. I wouldn't be out here today if I didn't think I could sell your home. Another one that I like to use for the new licensee is that I know that I have teams. I know that I have top producers. I know that I have number one agents that are also prospecting. And when you have a team, it's just that, right? You get to a level of diminishing returns or a plateau. You can't do any more business. I don't know. Maybe that's 30 units a year. Maybe that's 60. I don't know. Jay Kinder, half thousand, 600 almost. Incredible. But you get to a point where you can't do anymore without building in a support team and staff. And when you do that, I mean listing coordinators, buyer agents, maybe you have a hotshot marketer doing some things for you. And so when I'm that new licensee, I'm all of it. I'm everything. Some people would say, are you a buyer's agent or a seller's agent? Uh, I'm whatever agent you need. I'm that agent. I don't pick and choose. But fact of the matter is when you're that new agent and you're going up against that team, that absolute rock star in the business, what I like to say is Sally sells a lot's the number one agent here, and she's fantastic. If you're competing against Sally or maybe a team, or you can just say, I hope that when I get to the level that some of these teams, some of these groups, these agents are at, that I can treat all of them with the same care, concern, and diligence that I'm going to be treating one listing when I have it. When I get up in the morning, what do you think I'm thinking about? Selling your listing. By the way, did I mention I don't get paid if I don't sell your property? No, we can talk about breach of contract and all that stuff. Let's just set that aside. You're in a 100% commission job profession here. You get paid when the work is done. Not many people out there like that in the business world. So it just speaks back to I want to be. I hope that when I have 50 listings, I'm able to give all of them the same care and diligence that I'm able to give this one today. By the way, did I mention nobody started at number one? Did I mention that nobody started at top of the market? They all started where I am here today.
Yeah. So I love that. And, there's a few ways and that I found and that I've taught teams as well. I think I love that just direct method, zero. I also like sometimes answering that question, with a question and saying, hey, well, why do you ask? Right. And isolating the reason. If are they concerned that you don't know what you're doing? Well, here, let me explain to you that I know what I'm doing. Right. You get a chance to answer that question. And then to your later point, listen, you are my sole focus on this earth. Once we get this listing, it is my sole intention to sell this property. And once you convey that with confidence, the question really is, do they believe in you? How many homes you sold doesn't really matter. It's a question
Right.
of, do they believe in you, right? Because in many of these scenarios, or all of these ones, they're coming off of a process that didn't work for them previously.
Right.
So if it's a for sale by owner, they've tried it themselves and it didn't work. If it's a canceled or expired listing, they listed it with someone and it didn't work for whatever reason, right?
Right.
So, when you can help them get to the reasons why it didn't work, why do you think your home didn't sell, right? And then
Right.
I like to call that the ex-boyfriend, right? Or
Hmm.
because you're the new boyfriend coming in, tell me everything that jerk did, and I'm gonna say everything to the opposite of that, right? So
Right.
so
I love it.
what didn't you like about your ex-boyfriend, and then
Hmm.
oh, he did that, I'd never do that. Oh, he did that thing too, I'd never do
Right.
that. I always do the
Yeah.
opposite. So that is it's really teeing it up. It makes it a easy a easy conversation when you
Sure.
switch it to focused on what's
Drilling
important to them
down.
as opposed to who you are, your credentials and all that stuff, right? Doesn't really matter. The question is, do they trust you? So another
Right.
thing, Rick, that I love that you mentioned is knocking versus anything else, right?
Right.
And to my earlier kind of point, a lot of teams, a lot of brokerages even and agents will just get this list and start calling down, call. And you've already kind of prefaced this, and maybe you're headed down this path of
Mhm.
knowing more about the property many times than the person that had it before, whether it's that for
Mhm.
sale by owner trying to do it themselves or their previous
Mhm.
agent that didn't work out. I want to know
Right.
more about that property before I either pick up the phone or in
Right.
your case, you have a different strategy where you don't have to call 300 and hope to get a hold of one. You're talking
Right.
about go to one and get that one. So tell us
Right.
about that.
Yeah, that's great. No, and I've got the ratio down there 60 to 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a plan to go out and door knock. And here's where I come up with that. You have 10 agents going after that same listing. I mean, we all agree the majority of the agents that go after that for sale by owner expired or canceled are going to mail. Why do you think they're going to mail?
Because they were like you, right? They say
They
check yes or no.
circle one.
Do you like
That's
me? Check yes or no.
They're afraid of rejection. It's easier. I don't get rejected. I don't get you in my face saying, "Get out of here. I don't want any. I'm not interested." So fear is going to keep, I think, the majority of them from going out and knocking. And it's easier. And let's be frank, right? It's easier. I can have that process through a site now that does that. I can do it myself. I can have an assistant do it. Great, wonderful. Um, uh, what I would ask that licensee is when you're writing that letter, where's your hook? Maybe you have one. I hope that you do. You're in sales, but where's your hook? I often say, is it the realtor nod? Is it this number where you're looking up in your picture, or the photographer saying, say commission, and you're saying commission? You where is that hook? I hope that your letter is compelling enough for them to pick that up and choose it over all the other letters they're getting. But I wonder often, where's the hook? Now, so we have the 10 that are going to go after that for sale by owner, let's say that expired or canceled. Let's say 6 of them are gonna mail. So we've got them over here. Now, a couple 3 are gonna call. Some say, where do you get your numbers? I mean, you can find that. You can get numbers nowadays, easier than you could in the past. And or we had the Coles directory before we had all the cell phones, so you could find those there too. But I say the next biggest group of licensees is going to be those that call. And hopefully you get an answer. Hopefully you've got a compelling, if not, you've got a compelling voicemail you can leave. I don't know. The smallest group of those 10, I'm going to say 1 or 2 are going to get off their rump, and probably 1 if we're talking
Yeah,
about
that's
10.
that's a stretch, brother.
Hmm.
It ain't two.
Yeah, yeah, and that's even a stretch. Yeah, you're right. Even 1 is anybody going to door knock. But let's say for this demonstration, 1, maybe 2, 1 are going to door knock. I want to be in those. I want to be in that group. I
So,
like
so
those
what you're
odds.
saying? Do you want to compete with 60 other? And again, I think that's
That's right.
being generous. But
Yes.
the reality is 60 that are going to send a letter versus I probably say again, probably another 50 or 60 are going to call. Has been my
Hmm.
experience. So
I
do
think
you want to
so.
be competing with those 50 plus those other 60, or do you want to be competing with the 2, which realistically
Yes.
you're probably not dealing with 2.
Probably
Unless
10%. 1.
exactly. And unless their team lead, their manager is like standing behind them with a whip,
Hmm. Hmm.
you're not going to be competing against those. So how many people do you want to be
Hmm.
competing with? And then to Rick's point earlier, it makes it an easy answer to that question of how many homes have you sold, because you completely remove that from the table. It doesn't matter how many homes I sold. How many people came to your house and knocked on your door this morning and told you they could sell your house? 1.
Without a
Okay,
doubt.
so we're done. Like let's put the other stuff to bed. I'm here. I can sell your house, and here's how I'm going to do it. Here's my plan, and it's all about you and getting you what you want. And again, discovering what went wrong last time and not making those same mistakes.
Without a doubt. Yes, sir. No, I agree 100%. And I have that 60 to 1 ratio on there because it's really my line as I knock on that door and I tell people, look, I'm old school. I will have a printed up listing agreement in the car with a market analysis, a folder, my seller presentation. I'll have all that in the car, but I'm not going to have it under my arm or in my hand. I'm going out there to look you in the eye. Look, you get a better glimpse of who I am and what I bring to the table, for better or worse, right? But you get a better glimpse, I think, of who I am and what I bring to the table when I look you in the eye and I have a conversation with you. More so than when I send you a 8.5 by 11 letter with my picture at the top of it. I think you get a better feel for who I am. Like I said, for better or worse. But that 60-to-1 ratio what I'm referring to there and referencing is when I knock on that door, I'm going to tell that prospect, I had 60 expireds to choose from today. I chose you. I wouldn't be out here today if I didn't think I could sell your home.
Wow.
Going back to my earlier
I think
scripts.
that your home has the best chance of selling. And
Love it.
now all of a sudden
Mhm.
again you're having that conversation and positioning them as if, oh my gosh, what makes my home stand out from these other ones? Why are you here instead of all these other homes? So
Right. Yeah.
it's an instant hook, it's an instant connection point, it's an instant rapport builder, and I absolutely love it. It's I'm here because I think your home, out of all the other expires, and again, depending on what area you're in,
Right.
it could be a lot
Yes, sir.
more, right? If you
Right.
add all the cancels and all the
Hmm.
expires and all the for sale by owners
Right.
together, could be a lot more than
Hmm.
60. But whatever that number is in your market, you should know that and say, hey, on average, you can even put an average in there. On average, there's 100
Hmm.
listings that go expired every day. I'm
Hmm.
here because I think your home has the best chance of selling with the right marketing in place, with the right
Hmm.
strategy in place. Let me tell you about my strategy.
Without a doubt. And I'm not there to give them my 15-minute presentation standing at their door. I understand that they may have just gotten home. They may be eating. They may have kids in the background. They're probably would almost rather do almost anything else other than talk to me about selling their home.
Right.
And they'll have a bunch of good reasons why. Now, if they want to have the conversation, you know me, Tony, I'm never short on words or dialogue. I'll have a conversation with you for hours. That's not my intent. My intent and my
No,
goal is just to make that introduction, look you in the eye, and leave you wanting more, right?
that's right.
And it's something to the effect of, hey, Rick Carr, EXP Realty. I knock for sale by owners. I knock expireds. I had 60 of them to choose from today. You're the lucky one that I choose. I try to get by one a day, and I chose you. And I'm here today. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I could sell your home. I'd like an opportunity to talk to you about it. I know you're busy, have things going on. If you want to do that now, I'm ready, but I'm really here to make the association, to look you in the eye, and then to make an appointment. Now, we want to close, right? ABC, always be closing. I'll probably downpay that, play that, I'm not here to take it today because I am. I mean, I'm really out there to take it today. I have everything going, but I want to be respectful of their time.
Right. Right. So, and I think that a great way to tee that up that I've had agents utilize is to ask when's a good time, right? Hey, I'm
Yes,
here to introduce myself, and then
yes,
you fall back on that script. And you look,
yes.
there's hundreds of homes I could have chosen. I chose yours for a reason. I think I could sell it. When's a good time that we can talk? Or are you
Without a
interested
doubt.
in learning
I
how?
love
So
that. When's a good time to talk?
when's a good time? Yep.
And I have everything in my car. I've got my listing agreement, my lockbox, my sign. I mean, I'm ready. I'm ready
Yep.
to rock
Yep.
right there.
If they say now, we're now, right? But
That's right.
in many cases, you're right. I mean, the
Hmm.
kids are running around, without diapers, and there's
Yes,
a million things. Mom's
yes.
got dinner on the stove and all this stuff. So it's probably not a
Yes.
good time at this instant. And I'll be respectful of that and say when is a good time where we can sit down and actually talk about what the strategy is going to be, how we're going to get this home. So because you and I both know that's what you really want, right?
Right. Without a doubt. Yes, sir.
I love it. I love it. So what are some of the, I guess, fears that you hear from agents on why they don't want to do this strategy, that they don't either want to call for sale by owners, expireds and cancels, or they don't want to knock on the doors. What are the most common?
I think it's a fear of rejection would be the most, but a lot of
Okay.
it, I typically see that fear kind of stems from a lack of confidence in themselves. And I had an agent ask me one time at real estate school, when did you stop being nervous when you would go work with that buyer or go prospect that seller or take the listing? When did you stop being nervous? And I said, well, it define nervous. Is LeBron James, does he have butterflies when he's lacing up his shoes about to get out there and play for the championship? I would like to think so. I would like to think that he does, but does that nervous energy debilitate him or does it give him the extra boost to get out there and make things happen? And that's what you have to do. You can say, this can either freeze me in my tracks or I can take this nervous energy and use it to my advantage to boost me, to launch me to where I want to be. And so when I would take buyers out and I was nervous about working with buyers and hadn't worked with any, what I would do is I would go over the listings. I would go over the process. I would make sure my schedule, 1 hour windows at each property, and we're going to drive by 8 of them today. So I've got to plan these out. I'm going to throw some vacant properties in between so as a buffer. So if I'm running short of time, I can maintain my schedule. So it was back before. I hate to say it, back before really GPSs. We had maps goes. So I'm mapping out where I wanted to be. Last thing you want to be doing, and this was back when we put people in the car, is driving, trying to read your maps co at the same time you're trying to build a bond with these people. So I would make sure that, and you say it, and I love it, control your controllables. Have everything ready to go and go over and rehearse your routine. And I'm doing that so that when you come in, I'm pumped and I'm ready. And it's the same thing here, right? So whatever it takes for you to get that confidence, whether it's the Stuart Smalley approach, looking in the mirror and saying, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. If that works for you, great. Whatever it is, for me, it was always revisiting my process. So if I'm nervous about taking that listing, I'm nervous about knocking, and that they're going to say, well, sure, come on in. Great, wonderful. That's why on that one, even if I've driven by 3, I'm going to know what's going on in that neighborhood. I'm going to know what's up with that house. And there's a reason that I chose it, right? I hope that it's not, it just saves me. I have, I save a few bucks gas and going to this one versus, I hope
It's
it's one that
closest
you
to my
really
house.
think you can
Yeah.
sell. Yeah.
It's
That you really
close to
want,
one of my house.
because yes, because then it comes off as truth. And I was going to say earlier, that new agent, people buy honesty and they buy when somebody's genuine.
Yeah.
Some of the people will go for that top producing agent, some others, and sometimes it's a house divided, a split household. The wife or the husband wants to go with that new agent because they feel like they can trust him. They
Right.
feel like they're, that that they're not going to miss anything. They're going to look everything and lean on support when you have it. So that's important. I think is I think that's probably a fear which stems from a lack of confidence is why most aren't going to go out and door knock. Now I do want to throw this in. We should always be mindful of safety. And, I would say ladies, but hey, things can happen to guys as well. So be sensible about what you're doing when you're out knocking on a door because you don't always know who you're dealing with, if ever. And be smart about it. Have somebody in the car with you. Let others know where you're going. Hey, if you haven't heard back in 30 minutes, I just want to throw that in. I'd be remiss if I didn't say sometimes our salesperson motivation overrides some of the other senses. So just be smart because you're walking potentially into somebody's home and you're door knocking and they're not coming into their office. They're not meeting you at another listing. So be mindful of that. But other than that, I really think the majority is that confidence.
Yeah, and I think that the cure for confidence, or lack thereof, I should say, the cure is preparedness, right?
Yes.
And the more times that you rehearse it, the more times you go over it, that's where your unconfidence is coming from, is the fact that you don't know that you know what you're doing, right? So, excuse me, once
Right.
you're able to rehearse and practice and get all the knowledge in there to where you are now comfortable, it's easier to convey that confidence to others and have them believe you because you believe it as well. So I think that
Right.
that is paramount. That's
100%.
key. And being prepared for that listing appointment, for that buyer tour, or whatever it is you're doing. So couldn't agree more there.
Yeah, you may say, I chose you. The answer to the question may be, comes back, oh, really? Why?
Yeah, and
Why'd you
you better
choose me?
have an answer. Yeah.
You
Yep.
got to have that answer, and it's got to be real. People
That's right.
buy real.
That's right.
They rarely
And
buy fake.
And I think that the other thing to keep in mind, if you are going up and you're competing against some of these other, well-established brands, or even, sometimes we're going up against the same brokers in many cases. So one thing to highlight is, what do you bring to the table? What can you do that that the number one agent in this market can't do, right? So if you were to tell that seller, listen, I'm going to call you every morning and tell you my plan to sell your house, and every night before I go to bed on what I did today and what I plan to do tomorrow, right? Do you think the top agent, and now again, then maybe that's a stretch. Hey, I'll call you at lunch too. And whatever you say you're going to do, you got to do it, right? Because they're trying to win the listing. So be careful about what you promise. But you're able to come up with creative ways to make yourself stand out and say, hey, when you chat with Sally Smith, I know Sally's incredible. Did Sally promise you to
Yes.
call you every morning and tell you her plan to
Yes.
help sell your house? Did Sally tell you she was going to call you at lunch and tell you how she's going and
Yes.
how things are going on that track? Is she going to call you every night and tell you what happened today and give you the feedback on that transaction or the feedback on the listing and how many shows we got on Zillow and how many people clicked on the link on Facebook? And is she gonna do that? Because I am, right? You're my only listing. You're my only priority right now. So
Right.
when you're able to really, again, convey that with confidence, and that comes across just as strong as Sally's numbers, right? So
It
I will
does.
keep that in mind.
Love it.
Um, did I mention I don't get paid if?
And I mean, that's it, right? I mean, again, we can set aside breach of contract and sellers doing the wrong thing. And we're in a unique profession. As you've heard me say, Tony, my wife's been to 6 different neurologists. None of them have been able to take away her headache, but they've all been paid along the way
A
and
lot.
and paid a lot. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. And so what I say is they didn't get the job done, but they got that paid. I don't get paid after doing this for almost 30 years. I don't get paid unless I get the job done.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee of that. And that's why, again, I have confidence in my ability to sell, or I wouldn't be here. If I didn't have confidence, if I didn't think I could sell your home, if I was just trying to get listings, well, I don't know. It's not going to work for you. But no, that's it. And on these cancels, I want to add in too that you and I have seen kind of that 1,000-foot view, the brokerage view, and that we had a spike in cancellations. I've seen that kind of uh, 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 taper down, if you will. But we had a rash of canceled listings, and of course, now we don't always know. It could just be, hey, we're gonna wait, come back in the spring. Wife's recovering for surgery. You're gonna have the in-laws moving in for us for a couple months. Whatever. There could be a bunch of reasons, but I think, in my opinion, the majority are going to be they're unhappy with their agent or the property didn't sell. And I've got to let you know, if you don't already know now, if a listing doesn't sell, it's your fault in the consumer and the customer and the client's eyes. Okay. You took your sign out there, you took your lockbox. Hey, never mind, you told them it was priced overpriced 30%, that they needed to do some things that were obvious detractors to the property. When you can, never mind if they didn't follow your advice, never mind that they refused half of your showings, 1 and 2, they refused. And never mind those things. It's going to be your fault more times than not in the eyes of the consumer. So, just understand that. And if I had to go over one of these over the three, I would really be dialing in on cancels. I think they're all three kind of fall into that same category of
Okay.
people that have expressed an interest, but those
Okay.
canceled. Sometimes those are people with it. And I also want to say too, and I know again I'm speaking to my peers and professionals. Be careful what you say about that agent that was in front of you. First of all, just in a business sense, doesn't make you look good if you jump on the bandwagon. Oh, I know. Trust me, I'm following Sally's listings all over the community. She is not good at handling business. I mean, we all know that, right? First of all, it doesn't look good for you. But second of all, it's a violation of the code of ethics to use disparaging remarks or talk about your peers negatively. So even if I think Sally is not the best agent, I'm going to say, interesting. Oh, okay. Glad to hear that. Good to hear that. I'll never jump on that bandwagon and don't want you to either,
Yeah.
of smashing that agent when you run across that client that thinks it's their fault.
Yeah, and the reality is, let them talk, right? Let them say
Yes,
whatever they're going to say, and these are all bullets and
exactly.
ammunition to go in your gun. To my earlier point,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And you're able to counter with some of those things. Oh, Sally sucks at communication. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Right.
Oh,
Yes.
Sally overpriced the house. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, right?
Yes.
And then when you're
Yes.
able to talk back to them, listen, let me tell you two things I'm never going to do. You're never going to have to be trying to wonder where I'm going to when I'm going to communicate with you. You're never going to have to
Love it.
worry about the communication because it's going to be constant with you. You're also never going to have to worry about the pricing strategy because we're going to lay that out right here, right now, today. So again, just and
Love
you're able
it.
to use those things and speak directly to their concerns and their frustrations about the listing process with Sally without objectively violating the code of ethics, right? Because we don't want to do that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No, and the other thing I'll say is I got to put my DMB hat on now, right? Make sure that you're scrubbing against the do not call list, right? And we've had some recent TCPA
Yes.
complaints and concerns, and there's some major,
Thank
major
you.
lawsuits in place and things like that.
Mhm.
So make sure you are scrubbing against the do not call registry. And then also you want to pay attention to any sort of, when you're doing your door knocking, right? You want to make sure you're not violating any sort of local ordinances in that regard. Don't be trying to sneak into the gated community and climb over the wall and, do this kind of stuff. Cause yeah, they're going to call me and then we're going to have a chat.
Some people will like your effort. Others won't appreciate
That's
it at all. They won't
not
like
so
that you
much.
got through into their secure community.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's
That's
true.
great. I love it.
So what other guidance, or let's do some objections, right? So what are some of the objections that you hear from these sellers that are opening the door, and how do you overcome those, right? At the listing
Y-
appointment or at the door knocking appointment setting.
That's great, and thank you for asking. And I want to interject this real quick in case I
Sure,
don't come back to it. I've
sure.
already thought that I might miss it, and that's that if they don't answer, leave a card in the door. And I had a very well respected broker in our area hired me when I first moved into management as his training director. And I wish I could say this was my own. And in real estate, we don't steal ideas, we borrow them,
There
right?
you go. There you go.
But this guy built his business starting in 1967. If I told you his name and you're in the DFW area, you'd know it. But this individual, this broker, started his business off of door knocking and handing business cards out. But he would door knock neighborhoods, not for sale, not any statuses, just he wanted to meet people. But his advice here was absolute money, and I've seen it in action. It's incredible. If they're not home or they don't answer, leave a card in the door, 2 words, call me. That's it. Don't leave your for sale by owner presentation. Don't leave your title company provided expired basket. Don't leave any of that. There's something to leaving people wanting more, but also curiosity killed the cat. Call me. What does call me mean? I don't know. I want the listing. I'm walking through the neighborhood today. I've got a buyer. I mean, I want to list your home. I don't know. It could mean a lot of things, but I have seen numbers increase and or good steady return on a card being slipped into a door with only those 2 words on it. Call me.
So to be clear, we're not talking about a business card. We're just saying a card that says call me and a phone number.
Well, I'm sorry. In the past, it was a business card with "Call Me" written on the back. We're doing
Okay,
two-sided cards now. Whatever. Stick a postie. Be creative. Just
got it.
put it over your picture. Put it. A label. Give it a label maker. Call me. Whatever it
I
is.
love it.
Yes, sir.
I
Thank
love
you
it.
for asking.
And
Mhm.
thank you for clarifying that, because you're
Yes.
going to charge some serious trouble in some marriages.
Oh, right. Yeah. No,
Because
we don't
I
want
can
to go
say in
there.
my house, and my mama opens the door and call me thing comes out, and she knows it's not for her,
She's
or
gonna
if I
call
see
you.
it, I think it's for her. Like, what the heck? So yeah, we
Oh
want to make sure we're
no.
not.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Without a doubt. So
Yeah,
yes.
who is this? And
Um,
you got a heart over the me or something? Like we're in trouble,
yeah.
brother.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
so
But no.
yes, no,
Going
I
back
love
to
that idea. Go ahead.
Thank you. Oh, no, sir. I was just going to go back to the original question, which is, the objections, some of the objections I've heard or seen. You know, um, Sometimes people can be ugly, but it's really the exception, not the rule.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes when we door knock, we might think everybody's going to be ugly. They're not. I sold auto plans over the phone as an 18-year-old, telemarketing. You want to talk about rejection? Here's another one. I sold electroplate jewelry door to door. And some people don't know what electroplate jewelry is.
I
I say
have
it's
no
fake
idea what
gold.
electroplate
It's
jewelry
it's
is.
it's
So
fake gold. You
okay.
know, it's fake gold, and I sold it door to door. What do you think my rejection rate was? I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I remember the guy pushing me out the door with the product in my hand told me, um, you're about 80% rejection, so it's all in the numbers. You got to get to the 10 to get to the 2. And I look back on that, it was about 99% rejection. And I didn't know any better. But, that's a tough sale, folks. You have a commodity, you have a product, you have something real to offer them. And you, in this case, are willing to put your money where your mouth is by saying, hey, I'm willing to take this thing, spend time, money, and energy, marketing, everything else I'm going to do with this property. I'm going to push my chips all in here and
Yeah,
and
I would
and offer
deliver on
all
the
of that.
front end. Yeah.
That's right, with the hope that I'm going to get paid on the backside. So some of the objections, you might run into somebody that's cantankerous, somebody that's maybe they've been getting door knocked. They're not. They're going to be getting mail,
Yep.
postcards, maybe some phone calls. You're going to be in a small group, but maybe somebody's going to say, "Well, why would I choose you?" Okay, you chose me. Why would I choose you? That might be an objection. I'm gonna handle that with the underneath my screen here. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't think I could sell your home. That's why you should choose me.
Yeah.
What makes you different from the last agent? Well, I mean, until we have a conversation about, like you say, what they did or didn't do, or expectations met or not met, I can't speak to the last agent, but I can just say here, I think price is a big driver here.
Yeah.
I think you
And
should be here.
I think that's great. And again, answering that question with a question and just being honest and
Yes.
direct. Sales, a lot of times, is asking the right questions, right?
Yes.
And a great
Drilling
response to that
down.
one might be, I don't know, right? So, hey, what separates you from that last, Smuckatelli that didn't sell my house? I don't know. But I would love to talk about it and figure out what did they do wrong. Why do you think the home didn't sell? Well, because she was this and
Yes.
that. Money. I'm in the money, right? As soon as they start to
Right.
talk about where things went wrong in their mind, you got them. You got them.
Yep. I agree 100%. Drill down. They'll tell you why. They'll tell you how to sell them if
That's
you'll
exactly
listen.
right. And just ask the right questions. That's what it's all
Right.
about. So, anything else, Rick, on for sale by owners? Before we kind of wrap up with some parting thoughts.
Here's the thing. We take 6-month listings, right? Well, I think let me rephrase. We used to take 6-month listings. And my average time on market before the last, we'll say 3 years, 4 years pre-COVID, in a smaller market that it sold in was about 4 months, um, 90, 120 days. If I take a listing for less than that, chances are I may be just helping the next person in line that comes in and takes it. So for a long time, I was one of those agents that I didn't want to take a listing for a shorter term than I wanted to take it for. But I also dealt with print advertising too. And it took a while for them to get in the cycle of print advertising. So I would go out to take a listing. They'd say, "We'll give you the listing for 30 days." And I'd say, "No, you won't. Thank you very much." And this is, you may have heard this before, is where, well, we're not going to list with anybody. I want to make sure you're doing good work before I list with you. And I don't want to get tied into a long agreement and realize here 3 weeks down the road that you're not doing the things you said you would do or handling business. Now, I'll just tell you quickly the way I overcome that objection. I tell people it's a 3-step process. 1, give me an opportunity to correct a mistake if there is a mistake. 2, if I can't correct it, give my broker an opportunity to correct it. And then the last step is, hey, if step 1 and 2 didn't work, well, you're out of the listing. So I would really counter with them being unhappy with me by saying that, what I've learned in the business communities, it's uh, how an issue is resolved that really makes a difference to the client. Because mistakes and issues are going to happen in all of our business. How is it addressed? How is it made right? That really makes a difference to the consumer. So I'm going to try to overcome it that way. But going back to the for sale by owners, maybe a shortened listing term is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
Look, if you've never had a listing in your life and your average days on market is 20 days, take a 30-day listing. Right, I would be receptive to that, depending on what level I'm in. Look, if I'm 500 transactions a year, I don't have time for a 30-day listing. If I have no transactions and no listings, be creative. Take that 30, take that 60-day listing. Um, uh, 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 do things that different. Now, again, I've been trained. Here's another thing I do with for sale by owners. Why do you think? What would you say, Tony, would be the number one reason why for sale by owners list their home without an agent? What would you guess, or what would you think that would be?
Trying to save on the commission.
Commission, always. Same
Yep.
reason people cut their own hair. Same reason people try to do other harebrained stuff they shouldn't be doing. Work on their own Corvette that takes a lot of equipment now to do those things. I mean, people do these things, and it's usually more times than not. You get a couple guys and gals, I'm sure, that think I can do it, whatever. But the majority, and I agree with you, price. So be mindful of that. Maybe a variable rate commission is something you consider. Not everybody knows what a variable rate is. I will take less if I bring both sides. I'm going
Yep.
to list you at X%, but I list all my properties at X%, but I could do this one at Y%, with a variable rate. If I double side, I'll give you a reduction in my rate of commission. Um, so that's another thing. If you know that that's primarily the reason they did that, hit them with. And then I know we have to be guarded with discussing actual numbers, and that's why I'm XYZ commission. But if you know the majority of people are listing at Z commission, and chances are the for sale by owner believes that as well, then speak to their. Chances are they're probably their greatest objection, which is the money. Money and term are a few ways I like to try to be competitive with sale by owner, because you know what's going to happen if you take that listing for a month and you don't, and you're a new agent and it doesn't sell. You got education along the way. You got training. You got to put your sign in a yard. Hopefully,
Yeah.
you're going to get some
You got
buyer
marketing.
calls.
Yeah.
You got marketing. You learned how to put a listing and input a listing into SkySlope and into MLS and all of these things. So it's a great training opportunity, even if it doesn't pan out with a commission at the end of it. Oh, by the way, once I take that listing, I'm going to start marketing it to the other people in that area as well. Hey, we've got this property for sale here. And what am I doing? I'm showing them how hard I'm going to work for them when I take their listing, as well.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And then even, as you're having your open houses, and for any of y'all that have not watched the open house training I did last week with Pat Hayes, my gosh, you missed something incredible. Pat Hayes broke it all the way down and talked about how he has built an empire around open houses. And I would highly encourage you to go back and check that out. But it feeds right into the same strategy. And his business is literally bursting at the seams with buyers because of what they're doing at these open houses. So getting that listing is not a loss, even if you're not able to sell it. Because during that time period, again, to Rick's point, what are you doing to capitalize on that opportunity? Are you having an open house? Are you having broker opens? Are you having, what are you doing to capitalize on that experience while you have it? Because there's some of the cheapest leads that you can buy. Let's say you spend $500 in marketing and photography on that listing, but that generates for you 10, 20, 30, in some cases 50 strong qualified buyers that you get to work with. You will not find a better ROI in this real estate industry, I promise you, in terms of leads for
Without
buyers.
a doubt.
I think that,
Without a
a lot
doubt.
of times agents get so wrapped up with, hey, I don't want to take a short-term listing, or maybe I do. So
Right.
try not to be all or nothing in the real estate business, especially as we're
Yeah.
heading into such a interesting environment and in this middle of this market shift. So stay flexible. If things are shifting, you got to shift with it. Keep one foot planted on your fundamentals, on your integrity. Keep that foot planted there, but everything else needs to pivot, and shift with the market. That's my advice.
Be creative. I love it.
That's right. Parting thoughts from before I do that, goodness gracious, y'all, has this not been valuable? I see folks lighting up the chat. Thank you so much, Rick. I mean, it's absolutely incredible a
Man,
value on
thank
how
you.
to go out and get a listing today. Again, if you have to get a listing today, pull that list in your MLS. You can do that in the next 10 minutes and go knock on a door for the one that you think is most likely to sell for whatever reason. And if you need help on that, come on by the broker room. We're happy to help you kind of analyze some of this data, but ultimately go pick the one that you think should have sold and didn't for whatever reason. If it's price, if it's the photos, if it's whatever, then go knock on that door today and you will get that listing. And we're here to help. We got your back. We got your support. So if you got value out of this, please like, share, subscribe, click that little bell notification so that you get updates every time we go live. We're going live now at least probably 2 times a week, if not more. Make sure that you hit that bell icon so you're getting all this great information like what Rick shared with us. Like I mentioned, we've had Pat Hayes, we've had Elizabeth Riley, we've had
Wow.
Kender, we've had Andrew Franklin. I
Amazing.
think we got Monica Foster next week, if I'm not mistaken. My
Wow.
gosh, I mean, we are bringing the true powerhouses. And if you want that information straight from the horse's mouth, you got to be subscribed so it pops up in your feed. So, Rick, parting
Thank
thought.
you.
What do you got?
Be consistent. Have confidence. Practice, drill, and rehearse. And have confidence in yourself as you go out. That's all I've got.
That's all you got. That's all you need, right? Do it and then do it again and do it again and do it again. It's like the old Jim Rohn quote. He said, "Look, if you," and when he started in his sales career, and his thought process was, he can beat the number one salesperson at any organization. Why? Because it's a numbers game, right? To your earlier point. And if the number one sales guy is getting 9 out of 10, he can beat that guy. Even if he steps in the door, he's only getting 1 out of 10. How's he going to do that? because while that number one sales rep talks to 10 people and gets 9, Jim said, I'm going to go out and talk to 100 and get 10. Right. So it's all about that mindset. It's all about how and being systematic and being consistent over and over and over again. And guess what? It won't take 100, because as you start to go, you get better, you get better, you get better. As you knock on doors, you get better and better the next time and better the next time, better the next time. And it get to the point where you're getting that 9 out of 10 and you become the big dog in the market. You become the big dog in the neighborhood, and everyone's looking up to you. And you get to then leverage some of that, build your team, build an organization, and really 10x, 100x and scale your business. So last thing I'll say, I end these calls the exact same way. As you all know, you're right. You're right. We end this the same way. If you've watched everything that Rick has talked about today and you feel like, hey, that won't work, you're right. You're 100% right. That will not work for you if you don't think it will. We're back to the confidence thing. Or if you look at what Rick said, if you heard everything that I've said today and you think, man, I could do that. All you need is about 30 seconds to a minute worth of courage. That's it. That's all you need. Gather up that courage, gather up what you need, go out there and summon up that courage for just 30 seconds to knock on that door, have that conversation. And that's what's going to separate you from everyone else in the industry. That's all I've got for today. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday and the rest of your week. We will see you next week. God bless.